What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my Draftkings MMA picks for UFC Vegas 73. We got Mackenzie Dern going against Angela Hill.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all that is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back breaking down another DraftKings slate. This week we're back at the Apex for a 12-fight card. And yeah, not the highest level card in the world, but I think it's going to be a fun card from a DraftKings perspective. I'm liking this week from a DraftKings perspective. I think we're going to see a couple high scores, some good finishes. It's kind of a tricky week because I feel like a lot of these fights can go either way, but it's gonna be fun. We're gonna see what happens here. Before we get started and talk about everything, if you guys can please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. It's always much appreciated. And I do want to say thank you guys so much for 20,000 subscribers. Do appreciate everybody that does like the video each week, that does subscribe to dfsbythenumbers.com. You guys are awesome. Do appreciate that a ton. 20K is a huge milestone. But I say we get into it. Also, do want to shout out Underdog Fantasy. If you guys have not signed up on Underdog, use promo code DFSBTN for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. And I'll be going over my favorite Underdog play later in the video there. But yeah, so we'll get into the fight. Doesn't go to decision lines. We got 4 up top. We got Edmen Shahbazyan going against Anthony Hernandez. We got minus 270 here for the fight. Doesn't go to decision. As of now, it is the most likely fight to end inside the distance according to the odds makers, and I see it that way. I think it's kind of a Edmen round 1 or a Hernandez round 2 or round 3. So yeah, I think this is a fight that I'm going to have a ton of exposure. I think I'm like almost 100% owned as of now. I've built my lineups already, which probably not the smartest thing to do because we always have a fight canceled or something happens. But as of now, I do have a ton of Anthony Hernandez. I think he has a lot of upside, but he's going to have to survive this early storm. Edmen Shahbazyan, very intriguing price, honestly, though, at 6,800. Like, if he wins, it's probably a first-round knockout. This guy's very explosive. He has 12 wins, 10 of which come in the very first round. So it's safe to say if Edmen does pull off this upset, which a lot of people think he will this weekend, it's going to be in the first round. So a fight that I think is borderline must target with the Hernandez upside with the takedowns, the cardio, the pace, the volume, and the late finish. And then Edmen, who's super cheap and has first-round upside. So love this fight to target both sides. But I am very heavily invested on Hernandez. Next, we got Joaquin Buckley going against Andre Fialho, another fight that I do think finishes inside the distance. We have 2 guys who have a ton of power and 2 guys where I really question their durability. 8 knockout losses between the 2, and both guys have a ton of power. I think somebody's getting knocked out here. Not in love with the price tag of Buckley, 9,300. Like, on any other slate, I don't know how much Buckley I'd play, but there really isn't a ton of plays I like up in this top range. So I'm kind of getting forced to play Buckley. Like, I think he can win this fight, and if he does, I think it is by knockout. But if it's not a first-round knockout, I'm not really sure how well he scores. With that said, it very well could be in the first round. On the flip side, Andre Fialho at 6,900 is very intriguing because if he wins, kind of like Edmen Shahbazyan, I think if he wins, it's a first-round knockout. I give him a little bit more, second-round upside as well, compared to Edmen, who I think is, strictly round 1. But if Fialho wins this fight, it's going to be an early knockout. This guy, I don't think he's that great at anything, but what he's really good at is he hits hard, and that's all you really need at 6,900. So another fight where I think it's a solid fight to target, a solid fight that finishes, and I like that price tag of Fialho at 6,900, but I know a lot of people are going to be on Buckley this week. Next, we have a sleeper fight, in my opinion, in terms of I'm going to be very high owned to this next fight. We got Takashi Sato going against Themba Gorimbo. This fight is going to kick off the card, and I like these price tags. We got Takashi Sato 8,200, Themba Gorimbo 8,000, a striker versus grappler matchup, a fight that I do think finishes, a fight where if Takashi Sato wins, I see it being by knockout. I don't think Themba's going to want to mess around on the feet with Sato. Sato, he's not very high volume, but he has a ton of power, and I did not like how Gorimbo was reacting to shots against AJ Fletcher. It looked like he wanted nothing to do with the striking against AJ Fletcher, which is weird because Gorimbo had like a 10-inch reach advantage in that fight. So yeah, I think on the feet, Sato's going to have an opportunity to get the knockout. On the flip side, Gorimbo, who's 8,000 and now the slight favorite, and this is kind of where I lean, is the Themba Gorimbo side because he has the takedown upside. Control time upside, submission upside. Takashi Sato, he struggles with the takedown defense, and he struggles with the submission defense. Takashi Sato has been submitted multiple times in his career. So I think Themba's very live for the submission, but I think somebody's getting finished here, whether it's a Takashi Sato knockout or a Themba Gorimbo submission. And I think this fight's going to be somewhat low-owned as well. So I like this fight. I'm going to have a ton of it. And then finally, we got another fight that I think finishes here. We got Slava Borshev going against Mahashate. We got a striker versus striker matchup, and I think these guys are going to throw down. Both these guys have a ton of power. I think these guys are going to go to war. I think they're going to stand and bang, and I think somebody's going down here. Slava, he's 8,800. A little bit pricey, but I think if he does win it, it very well could be by knockout first, second round. And Mahashate, an intriguing underdog, 7,400. If he wins, I also think it could very well be by knockout. Mahashate is huge for the division, and he hits super hard. But I think somebody's getting knocked out here one way or another. So 4 fights here, 4 really great fights to target, in my opinion. Let's get on to our core plays. Natalia Silva at 9,700. On any other slate, I would probably just stay away. Like Natalia Silva, she's 2-0 in the UFC, and in both those wins, she has not seen 90 points. I think it was around like 86 or 82 points in both. So she has not scored well yet. With that said, though, this is going to be arguably her easiest matchup in the UFC. Both Jasmine Jasdavicius and Bleda would probably run through Victoria Leonardo. So, although she hasn't scored well yet, I think she very well could score well here. 9,700 is just wild, though. Like, I think she's safer. She's a must for cash this week, just due to the fact that there's a lot of fights that can go either way. There's not a lot of straight picks I feel comfortable about this week, but she's a minus 1,000 favorite. So cash, you got to lock her in. And even tournaments, like 9,700, it's honestly terrifying, but I think she does get the finish here. Leonardo finished in all 4 of her losses. I think she does put up a very solid score. But if you want to leave her out of your lineups in terms of tournaments, I don't think that's the worst idea in the world. But in terms of like being able to fit her in your lineup, I mean, it's super easy this week. So just another reason where I'm like, yeah, she's expensive. The price tag's ridiculous, but in this week, I think she's fine. Themba Gorimbo, we talked about him a little bit, 8,000. Takedown upside, submission upside. Low-level fight, very low-level fight, so it's hard to be super confident in it, but I think if he does get this fight down to the mat, he's going to be very live for a submission. Themba Gorimbo, I think 7 finishes in his career, 6 of which coming by submission, and again, Takashi Sato, that's what he struggles with, so give me Themba Gorimbo 8,000, but we'll talk about Sato in a little bit. Again, another really good fight to target. Chase Hooper, 7,900, another good fight to target. Chase Hooper, Nick Fiore. I think this fight scores very, very well, just due to the fact that I think this fight's going to primarily play out on the mat. Nick Fiore, BJJ black belt. Chase Hooper, BJJ black belt. I think we see a lot of scrambles. I think we see a lot of takedowns, reversals, control time, strikes on the ground. I think this fight is going to score very, very well for the winner. I do find myself on the Chase Hooper side. I am going to have more Chase Hooper just due to the price tag, due to the level of competition. I think he's going to be the better grappler in a fight that I think takes place in the grappling. But I think Nick Fiore is definitely in play as well. Like if Fiore wins, I think he can put up a very solid score in his own right. So I think the winner scores very well here. I think they're both in play. I am personally on the Chase Hooper side for those salary savings, though, in a fight where I think can go either way. I know people are very confident one way or another. I'm not one of those people. I think it's a 50-50 fight here. Give me the dog and Chase Hooper. But Nick Fiore is definitely in play himself. Anthony Hernandez, 9,400. In my opinion, the highest ceiling on the slate. I mean, this guy's landing over 6 takedowns per 15 minutes. He's going to get in your face. He's going to take you down. If he doesn't take you down, he's going to try again. He's going to try again until he gets you down. And it's weird. Like, that's the style that Edmen Shahbazyan has struggled with throughout his career, is the takedown defense and the ground game. Off his back just doesn't offer much, especially as the fight goes late. And Fluffy Hernandez is a guy that breaks you, and Shahbazyan's a guy that breaks. I mean, it just seems like a really good matchup on paper for Fluffy Hernandez. I do have serious concerns, though, about this first round, because Shahbazyan, honestly, talent for talent, like Shahbazyan's probably up there with Fluffy. It's just Shahbazyan can't put together a full fight for the full 15 minutes, for the full 10 minutes, for 7.5 minutes. He kind of falls apart after those first 5 minutes, and it's hard to pick a guy like that. But going to have a ton of Anthony Hernandez, I think you have to. But Shahbazyan, he has first round upside, and it would not surprise me in the slightest if Shahbazyan starched Anthony Fluffy Hernandez here. But the ceiling is just too hard to pass up. I'm going to have so much Hernandez this week in 100% of this fight, like I said, or just about it. GPP plays here, tournament plays. Buckley, we talked about him a little bit, knockout upside. I hate the cardio of Fiallo. If this fight gets to the second round, it's Buckley all day. I hate the durability of Fiallo. This guy's wobbling against Jake Matthews, Cameron Van Camp. Buckley hits like a truck coming down a weight class. I expect him to hit very, very hard at this weight class. Do have durability concerns myself on Buckley, but like I said, I think somebody's getting starched here. I hate the price tag, but this week I think it's fine. And I think somebody's getting knocked out here. So don't mind some Buckley, 9,300. Orion Cosey, 8,400. I actually think Cosey's going to be very low owned this week. Money's been pouring in on Urbina. And I don't know if this line's going to flip or not, but it's about to pick him right now. I do lean towards the Cosey side. I think he has bad cardio, but a little bit better cardio in this matchup. I think he has bad striking. I think he's going to be in a striking disadvantage. But what I do think he's going to have the advantage in this fight is going to be in the wrestling. I can see him taking down Urbina, wearing on Urbina, and eventually finishing him late. And yeah, he hasn't really scored well, though, thus far in the UFC. Like against Blood Dumb, and he didn't score that well. But if he can go out here, mix in a couple takedowns, at very low ownership, I don't mind some shots on Orion Cosey this week. Takashi Sato, 8,200. We touched on him a tad. Knockout upside. This guy doesn't throw much. I don't think he's that great, but he hits very, very hard. And Themba Gorimbo, I do have some concerns about his cardio and his durability a little bit as well. I think a Takashi Sato knockout can very well be in play. And honestly, if he gets a knockout, it's probably early as well. So I don't mind some Takashi Sato as far as the GPP play. And then Borshev, we mentioned him as well, 8,800. He's finally getting a striker versus striker matchup. He's finally not fighting somebody that's going to try to take him down. At least you wouldn't think so. These guys are going to stand and bang. Slava should be the better striker. I think Slava's very live for that knockout. But again, I think somebody's getting knocked out here. Moving on to my favorite underdog play of the week. If you guys have not already signed up on Underdog Fantasy, be sure to do so. Use that promo code DFSBTN for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. And yeah, a couple things sticking out this week on Underdog. If I had to pick one play that I like and that makes a lot of sense, it's going to be the Anthony Fluffy Hernandez lower on 38.5 significant strikes. I mean, it just wouldn't make much sense for him to go out there and stand and strike with Edmen Shahbazyan. If he does that, he probably gets knocked out. I expect him to go for takedowns very early and very often, and I don't see this fight taking place at range much for Fluffy Hernandez, and if he does, it's just a big mistake. So, and like I said, he probably gets knocked out. So I think the game plan is going to come in here, get the takedowns, rinse and repeat, wear on Shahbazyan, and eventually get that late finish. So one way or another, I think this hits, whether Shahbazyan does catch him early or whether it's Fluffy implementing those takedowns nonstop. So if you do like that as well, be sure to check out Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code DFSBTN. Really, really recommend Underdog. I do play it every week and enjoy it. It's really fun. Another thing to do other than Draftkings. All right. Going to our live dogs, there's so many live dogs this week. Like, you can make a case for every single dog this week. And I mean every single one outside of Victoria Leonardo. But you can make a case for Edmund. You can make a case for Fiallo. There's so many live dogs this week. It's crazy. Vanessa Demopoulos, 7,700. And I even had 2 dogs in my core plays. It's wild this week. A lot of fights can go either way. But yeah, Demopoulos, 7,700. I think she has all the finish upside in this matchup. If she gets a takedown, I think she's very, very live for a finish. She's very dangerous wherever the fight goes. She has power on the feet. She has more power on the feet. But, you know, her ground game is her bread and butter. Her submission game is very, very good. We've seen Carolina submitted, and we've seen her submitted recently by Penne. And if Demopoulos does get one takedown, I think it could be over shortly after. So I don't mind Demopoulos, 7,700. I see her being very decently low owned as well. Mahashate, 7,400, just a big guy that hits hard. He's going to throw down with Borshev. And yeah, somebody's getting starched here, I think. Borshev, I kind of question the durability a little bit. And like I said, Mahashate hits very hard. So I think Mahashate is very, very live for a knockout in this matchup. Angela Hill, 7,100. It's a price tag thing for me. I mean, I think Angela Hill is going to be very high owned. One of, I'd say, if not the highest owned underdog on this slate. I mean, the price tag's ridiculous, and I'm picking Mackenzie Dern to win this fight, but come on. 7,100 for Angela Hill, who has a 77% takedown defense, who's going to have a significant advantage on the feet. If she can stuff takedowns here, she's not going to look 7,100. She's going to look 9,100. So yeah, the price tag for Mackenzie Dern doesn't really make much sense this week. I think it's a lot closer than the salaries do indicate. I think Hill has a solid floor if this fight either A, gets extended, B, goes the distance, and if this fight does go the distance, I think it's a win for Angela Hill. So Angela Hill is very much in play at this price tag this week. Michael Johnson, 7,500. It's always tough to trust Michael Johnson, but he's going against a 38-year-old Diego Ferreira. In theory, he should be able to stuff the takedowns. Very good takedown defense for Michael Johnson. We saw him stuff the majority, or if not all, of the takedowns of Mark Diakese in his last fight. Ferreira, not the best wrestler, incredible grappler. So one takedown from Ferreira, the fight's probably over shortly after. But Michael Johnson should be able to stuff the takedowns, keep this on the feet, and outstrike Diego Ferreira, if not knock him out. So don't mind some Michael Johnson, 7,500. And then finally, pump plays. Eben Shabazian, 6,800. I think both these guys have first round upside. If these guys win, it's in the first round, especially Shabazian. I mean, this guy, 12 wins, 10 of which in the first round. If he does not win this fight in the first round, I think he's done, because Fluffy's going to put on a pace from the jump. And I don't think Shabazian's going to be able to keep up with the pace. I know he got a second-round finish in his last fight against Dolce Lungiambula, but Dolce Lungiambula literally does nothing. So, Eben didn't have to work as hard. I think he's going to have to really work here in this matchup against Fluffy. But yeah, when this fight's at range, it's Shabazian who's going to be the better striker. He's going to have knockout upside. And I think he's very well worth some shots at 6,800. And then Fiallo, 6,900. Kind of a crazy price tag for a fight where I think these guys are just going to stand in the middle and bang until one man falls. Both guys have good power. Both guys have their durability issues. I think Andre Fiallo is very live for a knockout and an early knockout as well. If this fight does get extended, like Shabazian, I think he's definitely in trouble, but give me that first round knockout upside for Fiallo. And then fades. There's a couple that stick out in terms of fades, but yeah, no way I can touch Karolina Kovacevic here. 8,500 for someone with no takedown upside, and if she does have takedown upside, she's getting submitted in this matchup. She has no finish upside. She's not finishing Vanessa Demopoulos, and if she wins, she's going to kind of pick apart Vanessa for 15 minutes, scoring 70 DraftKings points, 80 maybe, just because Vanessa is very hittable. But yeah, just pretty easy fade here for me on the Karolina side. But that is about it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys have not already, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, check out Underdog Fantasy, use that promo code DFSBTN. I'll be going live after the weigh-ins on Friday, so check out the after weigh-in show, and I'll be going live once more for Saturday on for Best Bet as well. And yeah, guys, best of luck for UFC Vegas 73. Very interesting card. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to make some money, and best of luck for this card, guys. See you later.